Man, don't worry, there is one coming. Hello and welcome to the Froggening, everybody. Hopefully the sound of my voice is okay and is not overpowered by the sound of small croaking frogs. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Froggening. So, hi. We've changed the setup a little bit. Instead of me sitting where you are and you watching from where I am, I mean, we've kind of swapped spots. Usually the computer's over there and I'm where you are, but I figured that this might be a better way to do things. So, cheers to a good start on that front. Oh, wait, it's already begun. Even the mug's got a frog on it. So, today is a special event because we managed to reach 20 subscribers here on Twitch. And this is in large thanks to Torval, but a huge number of people that actually ended up subscribing and supporting me on Twitch, so big thanks to all of you. Now, with that said, this is not the only frog mug I have. I have another one that's old enough and that's been in the sun for too long, and as a result, it is super faded. But it also, too, has frogs. We're not using that one today. Torval's like a Swiss bank. No, he's the exact opposite of one, because instead of holding on to all the money, he keeps spending it all the time. Zing. Now, with that said, let's get properly started. You might notice that here on the wall we have a fine canvas printing of Froggy G in his Grandmaster Splash outfit. This was my favorite skin at the time, and when Ronimo wanted to send me a present for having helped him out with the Awesome Cup, the Alienware Awesome Cup #1, this is what they sent me. And it's still one of my favorite things, and I'm happy that I can actually hang it on my wall for the first time in forever. I also here have a bookmark. Now, this is the only bookmark I'm going to be showing you guys today, but it does have a frog on it. There might be a couple more in this box I have next to me. But long story short, there's going to be a lot of bookmarks, birthday cards, and other such things that you guys aren't even going to be like seeing, because I'm not rooting through all that paper upstairs in order to find all that right now. It's just not happening. Now, let's get started with what's the first thing in the box, and no, this does not count. It might be green, but it's an honorable mention at best. Sorry, baby Cthulhu, go to hell. Now, more importantly, we have here a massive blanket. Now, this smells musty, and oof, I don't want to hold on to this for too long, but this is, in fact, a large frog on the inside of it. Hopefully I don't knock over anything too important or valuable in the process of all this, but you might be able to see there's the eye of one of the frogs right there. It's actually a little upside down right now. There's another green red-eyed tree frog on the bottom side of the blanket. Jesus Christ. It's so big and unwieldy. Long story short, it's a frog blanket, and it smells like garbage right now, so I'm probably going to send it to watch. But, yeah, that's our first one. We're not putting that on the desk. The first things we will be putting on the desk include one such book. And this is a book, a picture photograph book of frogs. On the front, you'll see two red-eyed tree frogs. Now, this is not the only book I have on frogs. In fact, my favorite book that I had on frogs was an Amphibians Encyclopedia. And as a result of that book when I was a kid, I really badly wanted to become, as I called it, an amphibiologist. But it has some really cool pictures of all kinds of like different frogs and you know, how they live and all that other stuff. I loved reading these books as a kid. I thought that they were super interesting. And my favorite parts involve some of the frogs that I could actually catch, including this little guy here. This little guy is called a Leopard Frog, and he's pretty native to the southern Ontario and a couple of other places in the States. But the coolest thing about leopard frogs is that they have that kind of leopard print on them. And the males tend to be of a very bright green that's very strong and easy to see, and the females tend to be a very dark kind of brown, which was interesting to me. At the time, that didn't make much sense until Pokemon came in and like Gold and Silver and started having some differences between, you know, different Pokemon of the same types and stuff. But yeah, anyway, I love those frogs, and I could catch them, and I could look at them, and I thought that they were super cool, and yeah, anyway. It's not the only one I had, though. That one was a little bit later. It wasn't the Frog Encyclopedia, which seems to have been misplaced. But this was like one of my very first books. It was about frogs and toads. Back at the time when people were like, frogs aren't toads. They practically totally are. Don't even worry about it. But there's, again, some really cool pictures in here as well of all kinds of things, including frogs eating worms. Hungry for words? Hungry for worms, more like. But it talks about everything, including their life cycles, how they make sounds and everything. That these, on the sides of their heads, what we call their ears, are legitimately just eardrums. Like, the sound hits it directly, and that directly gets transferred to their brain. It'd be almost as if you didn't have an ear canal, and it was just the membrane that makes your tympan, like the actual eardrum that you have, but that on the outside. That's what frogs have. So it's pretty cool. But it also kind of brought something up. See, this here is called a golden toad. At the time, like in the 90s, this was a big deal, that, for me anyway, that golden toads had become extinct, alongside a couple of other kinds of frogs, including marsupial frogs. And they were interesting because, you know, they were produced and had babies in their mouths and carried them in their mouths, like some kind of weird mouth kangaroo. Anyway, so yeah, that's frogs and toads. Now let's get to the more like stranger paraphernalia, I guess. We'll deal with this one. We'll deal with this one later. So to start off with, I should probably find some of the bigger ones first, because otherwise we're not going to have room on this goddamn thing. I'm going to warn you right now, I'm going to look like a huge softie, because a lot of these are stuffed toys. I don't know why I was enamored with stuffed toys as a kid. I don't understand why. All I know is that I love stuffed toys, and I love frogs, and the two of them came together in gifts, to me, very frequently. And so, here's our first one that we have today, and it's a frog. Now, kind of like... It's got ridiculous arms, holy crap. Kind of like my sloth friend over there. It actually has Velcro hands. And you can actually stick it on top of people and have them like hug onto like pillars and stuff for this little guy. But this was one of very many frogs. So I wish we had more rapping frogs. My friend, I understand. Ever since, like, one of the big reasons I actually liked Awesome Knots at first was because Froggy G was a character. So... I'm with you on that front. Hey Lynn, how's it going? Toaster, hello. Can frogs use tornadoes? No. Hanging around your neck? Okay. Here, baby. Let's go. How's that? Does that please you, Lynn? Okay. So, here's another one. Now this one... I don't remember exactly where I got him. I know I got this guy from, as a birthday present from a girlfriend a very long time ago. This one, I picked up. And I don't remember exactly why. I think I was in Quebec. I just liked how it felt. Like, it's a pleasant feeling, plushy. But, he also has extremely long limbs, which seems to be a feature of all frogs, that they have extremely long limbs and tiny toes, which is just, like, functionally incorrect. But that's okay, because they're still all super cute. So I'm going to put it right here for now. Dizzy's best frog? Well, we started off with her theme, so that's a thing. Need a Fatty G who splash dashes just to roll. Oh my god, I want that. That would be awesome. Okay, if you want an even more functionally inaccurate frog, here's your Fatty G. Goddamn thing is the derpiest looking frog. It's even got a furry back. It doesn't make sense. But I promise you, it's Kevin, and he croaks, okay? Or he used to. Oh, he still does. He still does. That's actually entertaining as hell. But, yep, it's supposed to be a frog. I promise you this. Sonic the Frog? That makes sense. But I think Kevin fits a little better. In terms of other things that make sound, we've got this little guy here. So this guy's actually a musical instrument. You take the top and you... And it kind of makes the same sound as a croaking frog might, depending on the kind of frog. But that's the cool thing about frogs. They actually make all kinds of sounds depending on what species they are. My favorite one out of the bunch are banjo frogs that literally sound like banjo strings being plucked every time that they croak. So if you're ever someplace and you hear like twang, and it's a bunch of frogs, that's probably my favorite frog sound because it just sounds ridiculous. Yeah, it is a cool little percussion instrument. Fighting against Dr. Frognick. Yikes. But, like, yeah, this is a cool little percussion instrument. And hilariously, you might be noticing that most of these guys are green. And this carries over as a theme. So I've also got a pair of musical spoons that are green. And my shirt is green. And hilariously, a lot of my things are green. Ever since I've had the chance to be able to choose my own room colors as a kid, my rooms have been painted green. I try to get green, like when I was a kid in particular, I try to get green things as often as possible. I really liked the color green, which was good considering that I like frogs, and most frog paraphernalia tends to be green. So that's the thing. Also, this is starting to get quite hot. You need to get off. Wolf likes spooning, confirmed. Yes. Who doesn't? Have a sip of our water. Well, that's a start, isn't it? Well, we've barely actually started, honestly. If you guys can see the size of this box, you might flip. So next up, why don't we go with something maybe a little bit more interesting? This here is a Beanie Baby, which is also a goddamn frog. Let's see. I wonder if he's a collector one at all. I don't know. I don't keep up with that. His name's Panama. Want to know what's really neat? I have suction cup on my feet. They help me climb high up a tree to see the jungle under me. This is largely, I think, true. I don't remember if red-eyed tree frogs have suction cups in the way that octopi do. But they do have suckers in order to be able to help cling to things. But yes, this little guy here is actually a beautiful plushie. And I love his eyes in particular. If you look really close, they're actually really kind of clear and bright red. And then if that's contrasted with their green back and everything like that. Red-eyed tree frogs are super popular because of how they look. Like, they are very interesting. Super interesting looking frogs. This is an example of it, and you're going to see a lot of this particular species of frog pop up over the course of this collection. Is this me IRL? No, because otherwise I'd be hating myself. Also, it's not easy being green? Definitely. Frog stream! Yeah, shoot, man. As promised. Can we get a frog hog emote? You know what? I would actually be okay with putting together a frog emote for the channel instead of maybe the SlowWolf derp one or something. Now this one holds a special place in my heart and also has the saddest story out of the bunch. So this little guy, I made him. I made him when I was like 10 or something like that, out of like this material that's all like you know, like a plasticine, but when it hardens, it turns into like this kind of foamy textured kind of stuff. And I made him out of that plasticine. I put him together. I drew the spots on him and the eyes and everything else. Now, unfortunately, came across a small accident, and it's part of the reason why I hate small dogs. I mean, I don't hate them, but I have an initial distaste for most of them to start off with. So, and I hate to say it, pugs in particular. So, there's this one pug that I used to know called Rosie. And this pug somehow got into my room and saw this and decided that this thing was delightful to chew. So if you look very closely, there's actually little like holes all over this thing's head, like on the cheek there, where they ought not to be. Also, her toes are like broken and missing in some places. That's because Rosie ate the dog. Like the dog ate the frog. I had to rebuild it with glue, and I was quite sad at the time. I was very upset with that pug. 3-part frog emote where you can make the tongue as long as you want. Oh my god. That would be awesome. Alright, so we're going to put this guy a little bit closer to the front. There we go, that makes sense. Okay, what's up next? Who do I want to show? Might want to get this guy out of the box quick and early. Just so that way I can, you know, hopefully not have him splurge all over the place. So this one's going to be a little bit hard to fathom, but I promise you this is a part of a frog collection. There's actually 2 frogs hiding in here, and if you squeeze, it actually becomes a little bit more clear to see. There's 2 frogs hiding out inside of this like stress ball type of thing, and I'm a little worried because it's an old kind of rubber, and you can tell already it's super deformed after me squeezing it twice. I have a feeling the rubber is going to burst any day now. So, like, I kind of wanted to take this out of the box I've got anyway, just to make sure it doesn't soak the rest in some weird toxic ancient goo. And then that way I can actually save the rest of them for some weird reason. More like slow frog? I've thought about it before. I've thought about frogging it up instead, but whatever. How many frogs does it take to change a light bulb? How many, Lynn? I need to know now. Now, if you thought that the only Sonic the Frog Hog I had was that one, Kevin, you're wrong. There's also this guy. Now, this guy is not only anatomically correct and also derpy as hell. Hi, guys. Hello, I'm Frog. But like, he used to have like a big string attached to the back of him, and you could like yo-yo him all over the place. And he'd whack on the ground or something, and that would make the little sound thing inside of him go off. Now, naturally, as a small boy, I thought this was awesome, and I used it to death, which promptly broke it very quickly. And if you thought that that was the weirdness of the entire toy, you're wrong, because this is its tail. Don't even think it's anything else. I promise you it's its tail. Frogs don't typically have tails unless if they're transitioning into adults, and that takes place in, like, you know, in about 24 hours. They mutate incredibly rapidly when it's time for them to turn into fully grown adult frogs. So the fact that this stuffed toy decided, I need to have a tail on top of it. I don't know, that's why I asked. Froshi? I mean, maybe it's kind of like a Froshi. That makes some sense to me. That works. That works. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just bring out a whole bunch of tiny ones right now to start off with. This is going to be the first section of small frogs, you know, go. Because over the course of many, many years, you'd be surprised how many people thought that buying packs of tiny frogs was equally as good as buying one big frog. So, here's like a whole bunch of them. It's only the beginning. This little bobblehead one was from an ex-girlfriend of mine from a long time ago. It's surprisingly cute because it has hearts for eyes, daw, and lipstick because you couldn't tell it was a girl before. You got this magnet one, which I love the color. The color is amazing. I just haven't had the chance to use it as a fridge magnet yet. And it does work. But that's all it really is. So it never really got to shine or show off all that much. It was just a fridge magnet frog. Are you becoming a frog person? I don't know, I thought I already was. Then there's this guy, who is terrifying looking. I don't know why someone decided to put lipstick on this thing that's otherwise incredibly realistic looking, but there you have it. It is hollow, by the way, so it could eat my whole finger if it wanted to. But that's another tiny plastic frog for you. We got, let's see, one glow-in-the-dark frog, which, if it's exposed to enough sunlight, it'll actually glow in the dark. I don't think it's seen, you know, light in actual years. Here's one poison dart frog. Here is another strawberry dart frog. Now, these little guys are actually incredibly cool. Let's see, I can remember what they are. So first off, they mate off in pairs, and they typically tend to stay to those pairs. But that, you know, little romantic connotation aside, the dads end up doing a lot of the protecting and raising and all that stuff. See, they only lay 2 tadpoles at a time, and it's up to the dad to carry them on his back, bring them all the way up into a pitcher plant, and then dump the tadpoles, like the little eggs, off in the pitcher plant. That's where they're typically safest. And when they, you know, come out, I mean, the pitcher plant doesn't eat them. They're fine. In fact, what ends up happening is that there's like a bunch of little insects and stuff that live around the pitcher plant. It's its own ecosystem. And the tadpoles are able to eat and survive and thrive there for a little while before transitioning into adults and starting the whole cycle anew. It's very cool. And then finally there's this boring little guy that's brown on the back and green on the underside. For reasons I don't know, and I'll never find out really. But okay, that's batch number 1 of tiny little frogs. Let's continue on with some bigger ones. I don't know. Hey, you know, let's do this one next. This one seems interesting. What the heck are you? Hold on a second. Oh, geez, you're a big one. Never mind. We'll leave you for later. Okay, so here's one. This one might look a little derpy, but I'm actually kind of happy about that I have this one, because if it wasn't for me, my big brother would have gotten rid of it. See, this was his home ec, like, sewing project from years back. He was tasked to make a stuffed toy of some kind, and he made a frog. Now, this is about the time that The Phantom Menace came out, and Sebastian, my big brother, big Star Wars fan, so guess why he's red and black? Anyway, so he's filled with, like, little beans and stuff, and, like, it's a cute little frog thing. It's pretty sweet. Problem is, if you pose it the wrong way, suddenly it just looks like a golem. Do you enjoy those frog gummies? I don't know. Maybe, probably, but I have never eaten frog before. I have never eaten frog before as a French person, and I refuse to do so. Just because I like frogs too much. Here, let's have another derpy plastic. Actually, it's the exact same frog as the brown-backed one. But instead of being flipped, it's green on both sides, and it's just bigger. It doesn't make any sense. Here, hide inside the bigger one, then. You're now a froggen. Darth Ribbit. That's exactly correct. Shoot, man, you're a genius. I believe these are finger puppets. Yes, they are. So, I'd like you to say hide things 1 and things 2. Now, these little guys are kind of adorable. I actually love the colors on them. Hello! But I love the colors on their backs in particular. They're actually a really neat melange of different shades of like green and red and orange and stuff. And I don't know. I find that they look kind of froggy. It's cute. I'll let it pass. That's good. Oh, Haribo frogs. All right, so put this right there. Boy, look at that. Aren't they just adorable? All right. Well, that's a start, isn't it? That desk is filling right up, isn't it? Oh boy. We haven't even really proper started. We're still at the top of this goddamn box. Alright, so I promised you things from when I was a baby. I was not kidding. This is the oldest frog in the collection. And I'm not sure if I was the first one to have it. I think my big brother, again, was the first one to have this little guy. But this is a baby toy from when I was just a wee babby. It used to make sounds where if you like squeezed on its heart, it would do like a ribbity kind of sound. But you know, it's old, hilariously old. Like it's got like rips and tears all over the place now, and yeah. But it's such a cute baby toy. So we just kind of stuck around though. Looks like a Yeti. You know what? You get to name it. It's the Yeti Frog. It's all yours, Tarunio. It's all yours. Who should I do next? Let's see. Ah, yes! The King! Alright, so this is the King. He has suction pads on his paws. Not his paws, on his feet, though. Extremely long limbs, tiny feet. Again, horribly anatomically incorrect. And also... Oh my god. So, yeah, this is King Frog, and he looks kindly and all that stuff. He's got a little crown and stuff, and he's meant to be like the prince, you know, they kiss in the fairy tale, and suddenly, you know, he turns into a real prince, and that's why he loves kisses so much. However, he has a slightly creepy side to him, because he can see everything. Sleep tight. I'm taking this stream as dating advice. Don't do it. It's a terrible idea. I actually need to save the room there. We do need to get to probably the biggest frog in the bunch pretty soon, because otherwise we're not going to have the room for it. So, excuse me for a minute while I do some digging. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, this is still not going to work so well. Oh, there's going to be fucking frogs everywhere. Oh, Christ. Never mind. That's not going to work. Let's do another honorary mention. I'd like to have an honorary mention go out to the Pokemon world, to the precursor to what used to be my favorite Pokemon of all time. I mean, Politoed is actually my favorite Pokemon of all time, but when it was just Generation 1, Poliwhirl here took the cake. And so when I got him, he became a part of the Frog Collection, because he is a tadpole Pokemon, and oh my god, he's the cutest freaking thing! I love him to pieces. And unlike Baby Cthulhu, who's just green, at least this guy sort of counts. And he's adorable. So I'm gonna... Oh my god, just... Nah. He's so cute. We're just gonna put him right here. There we go. Okay. I think we still need to dig a little bit more. Yeah, this guy's too buried. Too buried. Alright, so... let's go back to the anatomically incorrect frogs. For just a minute. Oh my god, I never noticed that this had like a bottom part to him. And I'm glad I never used this. This is an éponge pour le bain. It's a bath sponge with your animal friends. You're supposed to rub your body with this guy. He looks terrified at the prospect. He's like, no, 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 don't do it! The poor little guy. He's got like teeny tiny feet. I don't understand what's with the teeny tiny feet. He's got like a bottom half of a body here that goes into this massive floof, and then he's got his head just kind of poking out at the top, and it's just like, I'm dead inside. It's just, oh my god. Oh my god. Check your Steam notifications whenever you get the time. Oh, I can get the time pretty much right now, actually. But just give me a, we'll get to those in a second, I guess. Which one should we do next? Ooh, this one's got an interesting story after this one. Yeah, let's do this one first because it's quick and it's easy. This is supposed to hold, like, sponges and stuff, like at the sink. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not a great way to do things. It also looks like it's having a horrible day. I mean, look at this thing. He's just screaming at you. Oh god, shoot, man. I'm not gonna read all that right now. That is terrifying. But like, this is just like screaming for its dear life as you take the dirtiest sponge and just put it in its mouth. I don't know how to feel about this guy, honestly. Just... Ah! 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 Oh my god. That's the face people get when I turn around. Oh, Lynn. Now this one, on the other hand, I've always liked. So it's a little hard to see from a distance, so I'll bring it up close. This is a stone with a frog on it. Now, I'm not sure how accurate this is, because I only got this on a field trip, and it was honestly a tourist trap more than anything else. But the field trip was to a First Nations like walk through kind of museum. So they had wigwams, teepees, all that kind of stuff. They taught us how to make popcorn, how to make fire, that kind of stuff in the ways that at the time we thought that they did back in the day. Long story short, at the end of the trip, they were selling a bunch of rocks with animals on them, and different animals meant different things. The frog apparently meant happiness, and at some point I thought that this would give me happiness. And although the stone does give me happiness to this day, as I find it as a helpful reminder of that field trip, and you know, I like the design on it. The happiness boat seems to have, you know, largely just kind of been kind of neutral to me. So I'm fine with that. That's okay. I'm cool. But like, it was a good time. So this is your girlfriend? Oh my god. No, it's not our frosil. I'm not sure if I wouldn't have any frog fossils in here anyway. I don't think. What's this one here? Oh, okay, that's that one. And this one? And this one? Okay. So we still have some digging to do before we get to the kahuna. Ooh, can we get to the kahuna soon, though? Yes, we can. Okay. This is actually a major chunk of the box. We're going to do this right now so that way I have the space to do the rest of it. Oh! And hilariously, this brings us to the halfway point. Hilariously. Oh, God, there's sand everywhere out of that one. Oh, my lord. Alright, so this was, I believe, a Valentine's Day present from a very long time ago from an old girlfriend. Now, I actually thought that this was the coolest thing. And I still think that it is an adorable looking frog. It is actually massive, though. It is positively huge. And it's carrying a heart because reasons. It even has a heart, like it has a bow tie that's right here, and like it's huge. It's massive. This thing takes up half the freaking box on its own. The Sonic Frog is creeping me out. Is that because it looks like it just has white eyes? You're gonna have to deal with it, okay? But this is a giant frog. It was huge. And it's partially the reason why I can't put my frog collection on display right now where I'm living, because there's just not enough space for all of it, and this guy's part of the problem. So, we're going to put the Giganto Frog here in the corner, because its fat ass is actually enough to keep it from falling off. Perfect. Why are there ominous frog sounds? Because otherwise all you hear is my fan going off and me talking, and I'm not that interesting. Let's move on. Okay, so we're now halfway through the box, give or take. How's everyone feeling so far? You think that was the biggest frog you're gonna see today? Well, you're probably right, but it's not the only big frog you're going to see today. No, sir. We can put another big dent in it by showing you this following frog, hopefully without breaking too many of the other frogs. Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, oh, dear. Please. Okay, good. So this one's another one. Now, this one's pretty cool, actually, considering how unbelievably large it is. It's not as big as the other one, but design-wise, it's more anatomically correct than the rest. Big feet with also long legs. It also has, like, the sickest clothes. Like, look at these pants. This shirt has dragonflies on it. Okay? Or are those mayflies? I don't know. The shirt, on top of, like, the vest, has, like, fishing stuff and all that stuff. It kind of reminds me of Frog and Toad from the... Is it The Wind in the Willows, I think is that old children's novel? And it literally has a herringbone tie. Like, it's so cute. And he's holding a bucket. And, I don't know. This guy's really cool. I think that this is probably the most incredible out of the entire... Like, the most, like, well-made out of the bunch. There's obviously a lot of care that got put into this guy. And he looks so displeased with everyone. Look at this grumpy gills. Tell me he's happy. Because then you'll be lying. Like, that's just how this works. Hey, Cap, how's it going? Let the frog magic happen. Grandpa Frog. My grandma had a frog like that? Well, I guess that just means that I am most certainly, you know, an old man in disguise. Is that a bolo tie? I think so. But it's more like a bono tie. High five. Yeah. Grumpy. Just put him right here. And hopefully his bucket doesn't drag him off. Okay, so next up. Oh man, we have so many still to get through. I want to save this guy for last. Let's save this guy for last. Now, let's get to a really embarrassing one. I figure it's about time. Are you actually a frog thing, or am I, like, losing my mind? Oh my god, that's actually tiny. Alright, so let's get to really embarrassing stuff. So at a certain point in my life, I was so obsessed with frogs that it did not matter what it was. If it had a frog on it, I was sold. Everyone's got that really embarrassing object that they own, or owned at some point in their lives. Everybody's, and for some people that's like a music album. You know, I used to listen to this kind of music and now I can't listen to it for shame. This is mine. And it's terrible. It's actually bad. It's just like one of the tracks is Crazy Frog sounds. And it's just nonsense. This is actually a plague. It's... Crazy Frog presents crazy hits, including the intro. Axel F. We like to party. Get ready for this. I like to move it. Who let the frog out? Popcorn. Pump up the jam. Whoop, there it is. In the 80s and Crazy Frog sound. Look, the entire point of this album was to take actually good music and then add a bunch of obnoxious frog, like, bullshit sounds to it in order to make it Crazy Frog. Yeah! Does he have a dong in that picture? He doesn't. But in a lot of other pictures, he's got a dong. He's, like, straight up pantsless, and that's part of the joke. I don't know why someone let me have this or let me buy this, but it's one of the few CDs I actually own. I have it largely because I'm embarrassed to show anybody that I wanted to get rid of it. So, you know, that one's for you guys. I think they played it on YTV. I think that's how I figured it out. Oh no. Let's just hide it back here, huh? There we go. No one will ever have to see that again. There's a hint of it, but that's as far as we're getting today. Oh, Christ. Alright, so these two kind of come as a pair. I'm not sure how long I've had these two, but these two frogs have to have been with me since before I was 5. I'm pretty sure. I have no idea what they're made of. It's like a very tough kind of material. Especially just survived me as a child. It has to have been. Anatomically, not entirely correct, but it's more correct than most. You know? It's one fewer finger on each toe than, like, one fewer toe on each foot than it should have. There should be 4 on the front and 5 on the back for most frogs, but it still works out. The main deal with these guys was that they were just they're frogs, right? And you got 2 beautiful looking poison dart frogs that are shaped like toads, and you're just like, these are frogs, and I loved them as a kid. And I just, hold on, there's actually something on here. 1990 Determined Productions Incorporated. These are from 1990. I've had these since I was 3. Well, I've had these since I was 2 then, actually, because I was born in 1989, so. I never knew Wolf had that? Really? Oh dear. Well, there you have it. Now you know. Just take these guys and put them right here and here. They are not doing it. They're not doing anything, okay? Just because one frog is on top of the other, it's not meaning that they're doing amplexus, okay? It's not how it works. Get your mind out of the gutter. Let's see, who's next? Here, why don't you become next? So this one's not strictly speaking mine. But, he sort of is now. So this one, I remember as a kid, I was kind of jealous because I wanted this one. And my little brother got it instead. And my little brother had this little guy for like super long. And I was just like, I want him. He's a golden frog and he's super cute. Well, he also has a tail, hilariously enough. But, my little brother's obviously a grown-up, you know, and has responsibilities. And, I mean, he's joined the Navy now. So, on top of being a cool person who actually knows what he's doing and can socialize, he put all the stuffed toys in baskets and kind of forgot about them, as did my big brother. I never really forgot about them, but, you know, I left all them baskets, and maybe that's a sub thing for another time, is going through the rest of the baskets and discovering the huge collection of plush toys, just strictly speaking, that I used to have. But this ended up in there. And when I was looking through the baskets to prepare for today, I found this little guy. And I remember that I kind of just inherited everything in those baskets. And so now, I mean, this little guy's a part of it. So, sweet. Grand Theft Froggo? Yeah, pretty much. No word of a joke. That's probably true. Keep hiding, Crazy Frog, please. Alright. How much further have we to go? Woo, Jesus. There's lots of tiny little dudes. Alright, so this little guy, I'm worried about this little guy a large portion of the time. He's cute enough. Look at him. He's sweet. Now, his mouth is kind of falling apart a bit. It's not exactly where it should be. And if you look at his paws, his little feet, you'll notice that the fabric is kind of tearing. You can see the magnets that are supposed to be in there. He can actually hold on to metal surfaces and stick to them, including the sides of my desk over here, as you might have just heard. I love him to bits, but I don't think I can actually fix him. So I'm kind of worried about, you know, putting him in too many places where his paws get too used up. I'm not sure how. Yeah, he looks like he's got the wolf face. Oh. Or the kitty cat face, either way. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how his feet got that way. I think I must have been a terrible child when it came to my toys. So, here's this little guy. Well, look at this, eh? We're actually coming together pretty nicely. It's a fairly large-looking collection. And if I'm gonna be honest with you, he is in bits, Tarunio. It's rude. Can you have a magnetic dartboard and throw the frog? You know, that might be a bit rude as well, honestly. I don't like throwing my friends very often. Unless if I want to test how far I can trust them. which usually actually ends up being pretty short distances because I am not very strong. Turns out you have to be strong to trust people. These frogs, on the other hand, I can fucking whip them across my house. So you know what? I trust them a great deal. Now, with that said, let's see. Who's next? Who shall we do next? Speaking of magnetic frogs, let's keep it up. This was the next magnetic frog I picked up. Now, this little guy is just, strictly speaking, the happiest little friend you've ever seen. And are those marble eyes? Oh my god. Those are actually tiny little glass eyes. They're so tiny. They're so small. He's just the happiest thing ever, though. He also has magnetic feet. But I think I must have gotten this guy much later because at this point, these feet are actually still like fluffy and the fabric is still in one piece. So I wasn't playing with this toy as much as I was just like staring at it. It's, I believe, made in Montreal or something like that. It's definitely from Quebec. And there's a plush company there that makes these plushies that are just incredibly soft. This is one of them. And it's just, it feels so soft to touch. So soft. It's nice. It's not how an actual frog feels, though. If you've never touched a frog before, frogs are obviously a little bit slimy because they're covered in like a mucousy kind of membrane that they create in order to be able to stay hydrated outside of water a little bit better and all that stuff. With that said, though, they feel not slimy, I would say. It's more like a... Well, I remember the last time I touched a frog, which must have been years ago now that I had, because I mean, every time I go up someplace where there are frogs, I never have time to like really hang out with them or try to catch them or whatever. But when the last time I actually touched a frog, I remember that it felt like it did feel soft. Is the main thing. Frogs are very soft little creatures, and although it's a little bit like, you know, damp because obviously it's still covered in some kind of weird membrane. As long as you don't have hands that are covered in soap or some other toxic material, and even, like, you know, so long as your hands are normal, right? You can pet frogs and pick them up and it's totally fine. But it's interesting because the skin that they have is super permeable, so if you have an area that's full of frogs, that means that's usually a sign that the area is actually super healthy, because a frog can't survive in a place that's actually a little bit toxic. If it's even a little bit toxic, frog populations tend to die off very, very fast. So when you don't have frogs in a place, you know that the water might not be so good. Consider that just a sign. If you're out camping and you see a bunch of frogs hanging out in the water, chances are that water probably better than you're giving it credit for as long as you boil it. Another Yeti frog? Look, don't make fun of my frogs. Okay, it's rude. Oh my god, it's happening. Savage. What do you mean it's happening? You mean the froggening is happening? It's froggening? Yeah, there you go. Okay. Let's go into another one. Oh! Speaking of our Yeti frog friends, let's see. And I actually kept the tag on this one like a smart person. Alright, so, I'm not sure if it's from the exact same company, but it's the same idea. The texture of the actual plush is super, super soft, which makes this guy unbelievably huggable. But oddly enough, one of the very few sort of good attempts at anatomical correctness when it comes to frogs. Big feet. The limbs are a little short. The body is super long. But look at his face. What are you supposed to make of that face right now? He's just kind of like, nah. That's the best face I got. The Froggening. How did you get that font, my friend? Isn't this worth it? He's calling out for help. I'm not sure if he's calling out for help so much as just kind of like, meh. He's just kind of the meh frog. You know what? The cravat / boat tie he's got on really sells that to me. That's my main deal with this character. He's not impressed with you. This is how I got the font. Oh, okay, cool. Good to know. For future reference, I'm going to try to see if I can't put that in as a Twitch title, and then that way I can just cursive all my Twitch titles, and it looks so much fancier, obviously. And I'll also force all the kids to have to learn to read curse. No, I'm kidding. No one cares. Now let's talk about really super anatomically incorrect frog toys. Or do I want to continue going along the cuddable frog toys? Ooh. Okay, let's go with the cuddable one first. So here's a cuddable one. Look at the face! He's such a grump, but he's so happy about it. He's not the same kind of like super prime texture as the rest of them. He's still super soft. He's got like the tiniest limbs though. Like the tiniest little legs. He's like a baby. It's like a baby frog. He's helpless. You put him on his back, and he's just like. He's like a little goblin instead of a frog, but you gotta love him anyway. Apparently this guy was made in California, Woodland Hills. Actually made in China, but it's licensed out to California. Is there any other things in here? Nope. He's made out of plastic pellets. That's about all we got. He's cute though. Like him. Oh, there's a large number of these. Billy May is here with another fantastic offer. Froakie is best frog. I actually really quite liked Froakie. Froakie was great. But Froggening was also sweet. And then, I mean, then you got Greninja, right? Greninja is pretty sweet, right? Still doesn't beat Politoed, though. Politoed is still the best frog out of the bunch because he's green. Now, here's, like, I don't even with this one. This one's got a massive, like, tubby body, a huge head, and for some strange reason, despite his eyes supposing to be, like, you know, big and happy and wide-eyed, it kind of makes him look like he's angry at you. Like his eye, his left eye is twitching. And he's just like, I'm gonna kill you. I don't know why. The tie probably sells that a little bit, but the main thing is his head waggles around a lot, so at least he looks hilarious when he's doing this. Oh, I thought I told you not to put cranberries in the salad. Whoa! Looks like he's stoned. Oh my god. Here, put him in the back. His head will still poke out. There we go. Do you have a Kermit? I do not have a proper Kermit, I believe. I might have at some point, but I don't know where that might have gone. And I do know that I am missing portions of it. Like I said at the very, very beginning, I have this massive amphibian encyclopedia where I read it front to back. I used to actually know a lot of really big words. Okay? Now all I know are small words for my small mind. Okay? That might have been political humor. Point is, I used to have like this big encyclopedia which had talked about you know, the scientific classifications of different frogs, toads, newts, salamanders, and I think they're called cecilids or Sicilians, I think. They're like weird wormy type of looking creatures, but they're amphibians, not worms, not annelids. So I thought that was particularly interesting. But like it had this massive section on every single type of amphibian, and it had a bigger section on frogs, since that tends to be the most developed out of all the different sections outside of maybe salamanders and newts. And in particular, there's this one section I'll always remember about the marsupial frog being endangered / you know, extinct, and that the last two species of marsupial frogs at the time of the writing had gone missing, and which made me really sad because those two kinds of frogs were really cool. Like, I might have mentioned this at the beginning. I definitely did. But marsupial frogs actually carry their young inside their mouths. You know, because they don't have pouches. But they still carry them inside of something, you know, pouch-ish, I guess, if you think about it. And so as a result, they were marsupial frogs. But yeah, I really like that stuff. Now, this is going to just represent the sheer number of these I got. This is a birthday card. There's actually maybe 100 of these somewhere upstairs. I didn't want to bring all 100 of them down. I don't have that kind of space. Do you like Murlocs? Such a shame he does not have Kermit. Only true Froggers have at least one Kermit. Look, I'll explain to you why I don't have a Kermit. Okay? But we have to get to the end of all this first. Because I thought his name was Hermit, and I'll explain to you later, okay? So, I've got at least 100 of these somewhere upstairs. This is going to have to represent all of them, okay? What's in the card? Well, nothing. This one's just a collector card. But in a bunch of them, you got my mom writing mille bisous, you know, or something like that, you know, hundreds of, you know, however many kisses is your age times 1,000, right? So, when I was like 10, I got 10,000 kisses. Aww. When I was 8 years old, I got 8,000 kisses. Aww. Right? But, like, then you'd have girlfriend that would give me one. You'd have families that would be, like, family members that would give me ones with frogs on them. Because everybody knew I loved frogs. Like, frogs were my thing. I mean, if I wasn't being obvious enough. Yeah. So there's a lot of these. Well, there's like birthday cards and celebration cards and, you know, postcards and all these other cards. It's not all birthday cards, but there's a lot of cards. Alright, let's go through another batch of small, tiny pieces of garbage. Alright, so I think that this will about do it for the last small piece. No, wait, there we go. This will do it for the last small pieces of tiny frogs we've got left in this collection. There we go. Alright, so this is probably the worst part of the entire thing. And I'm kind of ashamed I own this to a certain degree, but it was a cute idea at the time. You know those marble mazes that you'd have as a kid where you had to balance the little metal marble into the center of the watch or whatever it was? I say watch because that's exactly what this was shaped like, but it's actually a frog in the back, and it's got a little metal marble, and it's frustrating as hell because the little marble has more than enough momentum to carry itself across the entire goddamn maze, and this thing is so tiny that it's impossible to balance without the freaking marble going everywhere! It sucks! It's the worst! Ah! It's pink! Get in there. Now, that's the great thing about the tiny ones, is that you actually just toss them. Wait, you like frogs? I didn't know that. Let's see what's next. So there's this guy. Does this thing still work? No, it does not. So this guy used to have like a little red light inside of his mouth, so if you push the button, he'd be like, "Ah, lasers!" In hindsight, he kind of reminds me of the "I'm a firing my laser," blah, you know, meme. But I mean, I like the blue, I like the green, the spots are pretty cool, and I mean, he's a keychain, and he kind of looks like he's talking all the time. Hold on, I think I can get myself off screen. Hey there, guys! I'm a frog! What am I doing this stupid voice for? Hop off, you frogging frogs! I don't know what I'm doing. Just get out of here. Frog silence? That's because it's been an hour. Hold on. Beep, beep. I've been at this for longer than I thought I would be already, so that's a start. I misremembered how large this collection was. Water's toxic. Don't drink the water. The chat must be toxic. Oh, jeez. I never played Frog Factions, actually. Hello, Chaos Gaming. How's it going? What else is next? So you remember those tiny little poison dart frogs that I had from before? Well, there's at least another 3 of them. 1, 2, and 3. And they're all various colors of different kinds. Now, admittedly, for tiny plastic frogs, the colors are actually quite nice. I especially like this little guy because, if you remember, this guy is about the same species of frog. The markings on the back are different, but the colorings are all the same. So, it was kind of cool when later on somebody gave me all these. I was like, hey, I recognize this little guy. And that's the thing. Poison dart frogs are super varied. Because they live in rainforests, and rainforests are where the vast majority of biodiversity comes from on our planet, frogs in particular do an excellent job of surviving and mutating and changing over there. There are so many different kinds of frogs over there, it's actually astounding. You have some that look like different kinds of tree, very specific tree, in order to be able to blend into their environment. I'm just saying, frogs are pretty sweet. Because of how simple they are as creatures, and how malleable their genetics are, and how fast they mutate from child to adult, they can actually they can change pretty quickly over the course of a couple of hundred years in order to match their environment and such. Now, despite that, frogs are still really, really, really dependent on their environment, which is why, you know, frog populations have tanked, especially in more urbanized areas like southern Ontario, where I currently live, which is why leopard frogs are getting harder and harder to find. So that's something that I kind of, you know, that makes me feel a little sad, but whatever. Hey, remember those other two frogs that were plastic and kind of boring and stupid looking, like this guy? There's a third one! Forgot about this guy, and he's sort of brown on the back and then bright green on the bottom. How about we make an even bigger frog ducking? We're going to take the big frog, okay, then you put it in the middle frog, and you stuff it in the middle, and you take the smallest frog and stuff that as hard as you can into the other one, and this is called amplexus. You definitely don't want to be the one on the bottom. It's not the place where you want to be. Woof. You actually should play Frog Factions. It's actually really fun. Maybe. He works at a nature conservatory. I'm not gonna lie. If as a kid, one of the big things I wanted to do was to become a guy that specialized in amphibians and just worked around frogs his whole life. But as I grew up, I kind of developed some self-conscious feelings about science and about biology and all that kind of stuff. I was not a very confident kid going through middle school and high school. That kind of tanked that ambition a little bit. But I suppose it's never too late. If I actually really badly wanted to work with frogs and nature and the environment and all that stuff, I should probably still focus on that. And that, I mean, I'm not sure about that. Here, let's suddenly go into a science field. That seems like a great idea. All right, let's do some more tiny stuff. Here's another tiny froggo. This one's supposed to go on the end of your pencil. In the meantime, his mouth is actually as big as his body. Hilariously, despite his eyes looking like a pair of boobs from the wrong angle. I just realized that. Twitch is gonna ban me. Despite the fact that his mouth is actually the size of his body, that's anatomically correct for a species of frog. There's something called the horned frog, or also known as the Pac-Man frog, where its mouth is actually half of its body. They actually make for great pets, apparently, or easy frog pets for new frog owners. Now, the thing with them, and the thing that made me realize that frogs are pretty freaking stupid, is when I found out that Pac-Man frogs will literally eat anything smaller than them. This applies to all frogs. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's another frog, if it's a cat, if it's a mouse, if it's a bug, if it's a bird. It does not care if it is a snake. If it is smaller than it, the frog will attempt to eat it. And if it's the same size and shape as the frog, then it will attempt to mate with it. Frogs are not complicated creatures. They do not have feelings. They do not have senses of attachment. They have senses of, I am comfortable, I am hungry, and I wish to breed. They are not intelligent creatures. They are still super interesting, and I think that they are fascinating, fascinating animals. But the Pac-Man frog in particular, because there are so many videos of this online, the Pac-Man frog in particular illustrated to me one thing. Nature don't give a shit. and the frog is the textbook explanation of how little shits nature gives. It's just how it goes. So, I showed you my frog, please respond. Dude, you got a teaching degree. You're already halfway there for working at an educational place like that. That's a fair point. Frog has more boob than me. Oh no. Oh, and in case you thought that was not enough boob, there's more. There's another bigger version of it with that's literally the exact same. It has the exact same amount of boobage going on for it. You thought I was lying? Look, There's two. Cloning works. But which one's the bigger one? Which one's the bigger one? Guess what? You're wrong. It's the other one. I don't understand these two things. I never understood the putting the thing on the end of your pencil. Like, it just unbalanced the pencil and made me write like a moron. So I never ended up doing it. So, eyes up here. Yeah, yeah, my eyes are up here. That's where I'm staring already, frog lady. Okay, so this one. Does this one's laser work? Nope, the battery on this one also died. This one also used to have a little laser on the front. You can see the light bulb now thanks to the camera. If you push the button on the back, it would go... but in the meantime, it is probably the most depressing looking frog I've ever seen. Look at this thing. He's just like... He looks like he's... It's the most unliving frog I have. This frog does... It's just... It stares into your soul and it doesn't give it back. Like... This is like the Aztec god of frog gods. And I don't know where to start with that one. You need to make a Tinder profile picture of you sitting in the middle of all these frogs. I'll do it. Looking for a frog girl to add to the collection? Oh my god. Please don't get me started with that. I know where to find them. Okay, and then there's three more of the tiny little guys. Now I'm going to show you the third one as my favorite for last. This one is okay. The black and yellow on this frog is pretty typical of a lot of poisonous animals. Not venomous. I don't think there's a single venomous frog in the world that I know of. But there are a desperately large number of poisonous ones in the rainforest. And if they look like this, or have bright red on them, like this guy, okay, do not touch them, do not eat them, okay? They are coated in a poison that is incredibly deadly, one drop of which is able to kill several fully grown men at least. Like, it is a very desperately dangerous poison. With that said, though, native peoples in those areas would take the poison, harvest them off the frogs, probably killing the frogs in the process, so that makes me feel a little bad. But they would harvest the poison, and that's how they make poison darts. It'd be the poison that's the poison that they used on the darts, because it was so lethal and so effectively easy to get. Effectively, I guess all you need to do is take the dart and roll it on the back of the frog, but I don't know these things, okay? So, anyway, those frogs are largely brightly colored because that's nature's way of saying, fuck off, don't eat me. That's just, it's nature's way of saying I'm dangerous. And they are usually in colors that every animal can technically usually see. So stuff like red and black and yellow. Not every animal has the ability to see green, hence why you do not see a bunch of bright green animals that are also poisonous and tend not to want to be found. If you don't want to be found, that's when you end up finding the animals that are brown and green and such. But, there you have it. That's why they're called poison dart frogs. There you go, buddy! The Sonic is still staring into my soul. Get used to it. Wolfie's ready when the world becomes a giant pond of lily ponds? You bet, man. You dare impede on my lunchtime? Every day, man. Wolf, you should watch Hero Academia. There's a frog waifu. I started watching it. I saw the first episode, and then the website that I started watching didn't let me watch the rest of it. I actually do want to watch the rest of that thing, and I know that there's the frog girl, and that tickles the cockles of my cold, dead heart. Which isn't actually dead or anything. Now, you might have seen this guy before. How many of these other frogs have we seen before? That's right, 2. This makes the 3rd one of my collection that is this specific kind of frog. Now, the reason why I like this little guy is because he's anatomically actually super correct. I think he's about life-sized. The way that the legs and the arms and everything are positioned and proportioned properly. And the colors are on point, too. This little guy, despite being a little plastic miniature, is actually like a top-notch frog. And also, it's a really cool kind of idea of how big are these guys. He might be smaller in real life, but it's cool, right? Like, if I kept it far back enough, I could probably trick a new person into saying, hey, look, it's a real frog, haha. Not really, actually. That's a vagina frog? It's the Glitterous guys have found it! Now, he's not my favorite one, because I actually really like this guy. Now, this guy, I'm not sure if I've seen any photos of a real frog that looks like this, but again, he's anatomically correct. He's got the right bone structure in the back, and that's how you can tell usually if it's a frog, is if there's that very defined, sleek bone structure where there's a lot of structural, like, where the bones tend to focus around the hips, because frogs use their back legs mostly to do all the pushing, and there's a lot of force that ends up on the back of the frog that way. And then they have short, stubby front arms to absorb the shock of landing. That's how they land. And that's how you can tell it's a frog mostly. Toads don't tend to have as developed a bone structure, just not this defined anyway, just because they don't hop as far as frogs do. That's probably the main defining trait, that and the texture of their skin, and the fact that toads tend to secrete like mind fuckery kind of like stuff from pores in their skin. But I like this guy primarily because the shade of blue on his back is like super cute. I don't know what it is about it. This little guy, being as blue as he is and full of spots as he is, like he's a cute froggo. I like the blue. He's just one of my favorites because of that. Twitch, no! Is it that bad? Yeah, Twitch did it again. I'm sorry. Guess it kind of looks like an eye. Hips don't lie. Yeah, you're right. The hips don't lie. They'll tell you whether it's a frog or a toad or not pretty easily. Alright, and that's pretty much the end of the dinkier crap in all of this. Okay, let's go on to another old hobby of mine. So, one of the things that I used to do as a kid was I'd go off to France and to see my family that lives over there every once in a while. I was a very lucky kid in that front, and I still suffer from affluenza to this day. However, while I was over there, every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, there was a market in the town that we'd go to visit called in the market there'd be like all kinds of like handcrafted stuff, right? Or individual pieces of just like tourist trap kind of stuff. That includes a chess set that I have over there that I'd like to show off one day. It's made out of wood, it's hand painted, it's all that stuff. It's gorgeous looking by the look of things. Ready? Hopefully we're back. Are my frog sounds still going? Holy crap, they're still going. Hey everybody, welcome back, hopefully. I'm just going to go ahead and quickly refresh my chat. Frog, yes, we're back. Okay, good stuff. I'm glad. Really sorry about that. Yeah, Streamerino kept dying for a little bit, but hopefully I've fixed it now. It seems like the internet likes to just crap itself, unless if I reset it for like a good minute-long period every like time that I want to do anything. So, welcome back to the Froggening. I did not find anything else upstairs, by the way, while I was waiting for the router and everything to kind of do its own thing to add to the collection. This is so far the collection as it stands. However, we're not done yet. So last time I mentioned this little guy, little sand dude, who I really like the back color of, and I really like the belly, you know, the green belly and everything of as well. I thought this guy was dope. Perfect. Quickly reset this, that way I can see my previews, that way I can see whether or not everything's going to hell or back. Is it going to hell or back? I don't think so. I don't know, man. But I just hope that everyone's having a good time regardless. I don't care about rooms. Just bring me back to the chat, please. Thank you. Alright, there we go. So, welcome back. Let's go ahead and continue on. We're almost done with this nonsense. I can almost finish embarrassing myself. And if you thought that was the end of the sand frogs, you're grossly mistaken. Look at the belly color. I want you to imagine what the pattern might be for this little guy. Imagine. Just try to guess. You're wrong, probably. I don't know how. I don't know why anyone thought this was a good plan, but it worked. It's like this cobalt kind of looking frog and everything. It's super cool. Which reminds me of another frog that has probably one of the most interesting hibernation tactics I've ever heard of a frog in my life. So, the thing with frogs is that frogs are like reptiles. They're cold-blooded. They can't really survive unless if there's external heat. They can, however, hibernate. And when they hibernate, they tend to, most of them anyway, tend to dig to the bottom of a pond where it's still sort of warm and like dig themselves under in the mud. At that point, their metabolism slows super far down and they hibernate. Now, there's one species of frog that lives in the north end of our continent that I don't really know the real name of, but I do know it as the Icecube Frog. What makes this little guy interesting is that he is, I think, one of the very few, if not the only living organism that's capable of cryogenically suspending its metabolism entirely. As in, it can turn itself into an ice cube, and then when it's warm enough, it thaws itself. It can freeze itself into a block of ice, and then go back to normal when it's warm enough to stay normal. That is insane. It's actually one of the reasons why people... it's one of the main ways that people have been looking into how can we cryogenically freeze humans is because of this frog, or at least that was an inspiration for how to maybe do it. So, that's a particularly cool frog. Someone merged my DNA with that frog. My heart is already that cold, though, Savage. It's not that hard. So that's the Icecube Frog for you. Now for some paperweights, pretty much. This little guy here is made of glass, or... Hold on. Yeah, it's glass, I think, but it's so lightweight for glass that it's got to be like a plastic glass hybrid, like a plastic glass. It's actually super cool, though, because the glass itself is actually very similar. Hold on. Let me try that again. The glass is uniform throughout. On the bottom, you don't really notice anything different about it, but on the top, there's eyes. This is a cool little thing. There's two things about this statue that I like. The first is that the eyes are actually just a deformity in the glass that causes, due to the convex nature of the glass, to shift the light, coming from beneath it into making it look dark, because it's magnifying, like all this other stuff. In short, it's playing with light to create the fact that there's no stripes beneath it to make it look like there's eyes. Secondly, there's actually such a thing called the glass frog, and it's not called the glass frog because it's made out of glass. It's called the glass frog because it's see-through. You can see what it ate for lunch. The size of this thing, I think it fits on a fingernail. So it's about yay big. That's it. It is a super teeny tiny itty bitty little frog, and this little thing's way to survive is by being see-through. Because it is translucent, not only can you see everything that it is if you look at it from, below, but from above, it looks like anything that it's on top of, really. So as a result, it can blend in pretty much anywhere because of how, see-through its skin is. With that said, though, you can't really put it in direct sunlight because I would imagine that it cooks pretty quick. Now, it's called the glass frog because he didn't invest into pills, regen, or lifesteal. Desmond, well played. Well played. But the frog is still conscious because it still has to unfreeze itself, right? Nope. That is a natural process. It freezes, and then when it's warm enough, it unfreezes, and it just kind of goes, oh, wow, that was weird, and then kind of goes back about its daily business. I might have mentioned this before, but frogs are pretty dumb. And I'd imagine that a frog that literally freezes itself and then gets itself unfrozen is because of the outside temperature, not so much it's, I'm going to now freeze myself with this potato chip. Like he's not that mentally vigorous. Now this little guy, I got a story about him too. So it's a really cool statue to start off with. I really like how it was carved. I like how it looks. I like the color. All that stuff. But for those of you that like frogs at all, you might realize this looks like another particular kind of frog called a Suriname toad. Now, the Suriname toad is notable for two things. First of all, it doesn't really have eyes. Second, it's either the world's greatest parent or the world's most disgusting creature you've ever heard of. Especially if you have that fear of, holes in your skin. I forget exactly what that's called. You might want to turn down the volume for about the next minute and a half while I explain this. So the Suriname toad doesn't lay eggs in a froth like most others tend to do. What it does is it'll lay eggs and then put them on its back. The eggs then go inside the skin of the Suriname toad. Kind of like weird zits. Once they're inside the skin, the toads, like the little eggs, you know, change. They grow and all that stuff. After the period of which the eggs grow, I forget exactly, after the incubation period, that's what it is. So after the incubation period, the Suriname toad, I mean, might feel something funny on its back, but not a big deal for it. What happens to us, though, is terrifying. The little eggs have turned into fully grown clones. I mean, not fully grown, like, the same size, but I mean, like, they're tiny little versions of the parents. And they're frogs now. They don't go through a tadpole phase. They just become frogs. And so at this point, the little frogs crawl out of the mom's back in little, like, you know, a little horde of small frogs. And it's terrifying. But keep in mind, this parent has put them in their back. That's like a Parent of the Year award, big time. Unfortunately, it's also super gross because suddenly, now whenever you pop a zit, if you ever have to do that because your skin's maybe kind of a little bit worse than perfect, then, you know, imagine that, but the zits pop themselves, and it's toads. Anyway, that's Suriname toads for you. They're weird. Next up, let's do another sand frog. It's the last of the sand frogs. Now this one fills my heart with a little bit of sadness and joy in equal measure. I love how absolutely glorious this little guy is. He's so fabulous. Look at him. He is so glittery. He is so shiny. He's the shiniest of toads. And his belly, it's purple. He's practically the Babadook in terms of icon levels. Now with that said, he used to be shinier, but more importantly, the sand that they used in him is so fine that as I'm holding him right now, the sand is actually coming through and coming out of the frog itself, which makes me a little sad. In addition, the eyes have fallen off more than once, and bless my mom. Merci, maman! Bless my mom for putting these eyes back together multiple times as my crying baby, you know, face was like, Mom, he's broken! Help me fix his eyes! So, yeah, this guy's been with me for a little while. I'm not sure where he came from. And he's slowly but surely losing all of his stuffing, which makes me also sad, because somebody decided, nah, as far as sand goes, the finer the better. And the fabric, who gives a shit, right? Anyway, makes me a little sad. Shiny, like a treasure from a sunken pirate wreck. Scrub the deck and make it look shiny. Yeah, exactly. There you go. Like the diamonds round a wealthy woman's neck. Just a sec, don't you know? Fish are dumb, dumb, dumb. They chase anything that glitters. Beginners. Oh, and here they come, come, come. Anyway, let's move on. So I think that we're done with all the tiny frogs. Almost, almost. There's one more finger puppet one. And then a little statue one. Let's do the little statue one first. So this little guy I like a lot. Because he's reading. I used to read a lot more than I do right now. I used to do it instead of video games. So if you can imagine the amount of time that I spent playing video games, this is the amount of time that I used to spend reading. I'm pretty sure that my mom would prefer that I spent that time reading, and that my dad would prefer that I spent that time reading, and that everybody in my life would prefer that I spent that time reading, including myself to a certain degree. But I also just, I mean, I'm kind of lost anyway to the winds. So anyway, this little guy came by me at some point, and he's actually a gorgeous little, like, porcelain little frog. You know, he's happily reading some book of some kind that has to do with bugs. As you can tell, there's even little details there. There's at least one butterfly and one dragonfly in there. He's gorgeously painted. Like, I love the green. I love everything about this little guy. He's actually a really cute statue. There's nothing wrong with playing video games at all, I would argue. But at the same time, my family would support books more, is my feeling. Let's just keep that between you and me, huh? So, the crap of this frog you got there, thank you, Toaster. I appreciate it. Um, here we go. Hello, everybody. Meet another Prince Frog. So this is a pretty common trope, is that you have frog princes and stuff because of, you know, that fairy tale. This one happens to be a finger puppet as well, so that's pretty sweet, isn't it, Mr. Froggo? Aren't you just the cutest, aren't you? If I kiss you, will you turn into a prince? That's a lie. Will you go sit down now? I suppose so. But yeah, anyway, I like this little guy. I think that he's got freckles, which is super cute. I think that his eyes are still kind of cute, despite the fact that they're very unfrog-like. He's adorable. I'm gonna put him back down over here. Oof. Now, speaking about prince frogs and such, that fairy tale kind of always resonated with me as a kid. But it wasn't until recently that I had realized just how prevalent it was. And all that stuff. Like, I knew it was everywhere, but I only recently watched The Princess and the Frog. You know that Disney movie, the most recent hand-animated one that didn't do particularly well, apparently, at the box office, but for reasons that we all kind of understood. That movie was okay, but the main thing that I actually really enjoyed about it, and the reason why I actually still kind of liked it, was because the animation of the frog characters was on point. It was actually super cool. Like, barring anything else in the ridiculous story that made very little sense, involving some kind of backwards hick firefly and a trumpet-playing alligator and a voodoo witch doctor that had voodoo spirits and voodoo debts to pay for reasons. The frogs were actually super smoothly animated and very cool to watch and just fluid, and I loved that about that movie, actually, to pieces. And it was primarily the reason why I wanted to watch that movie in the first place, and I was not disappointed. So you know what? It's a win for me. I came for the frog. Did you come for all these? Video games are very educational. A book teaches you how to save your girlfriend from a fire-breathing turtle. That's pretty much true. Or from an entire, thing full of... Yeah. Even the Frog Prince story now belongs to Disney. Pretty much. Yeah. And because they changed copyright laws who knows how long ago, they can continue to copyright prosecute people for copyright infringement on their, property. Intellectual property based off of that for the next 75 years to a century. They'll just keep updating that for as long as they need to make Snow White a relevant thing for themselves. So here's one. This is what I like to call my garden toad. Because not only does it have a shovel, which I thought was adorable, and it's got a flower on its head. And I wouldn't know what flower it is off the top of my head, so if any of you are botanists, maybe you can tell me. It might be just like a lily flower, but I doubt it. I do know it's a toad because of the texture of the skin. Now, I mentioned this before, frogs practically are toads and toads are practically frogs, but there are some differences. And one of them is not only this toad's marvelous butt crack, but also the fact that toads tend to have a much more bumpy skin texture and all that stuff. Part of the reason is because it blends in a little bit better with their environments. They tend to look more like the soil and the dirt and the bark that toads tend to hide around on. They can stand to be farther away from water, and so as a result, they don't need to have the same kind of, hydrodynamic kind of skin that frogs tend to in order to be able to move quickly through water. On top of that, though, those warts and stuff, they actually don't do anything, by the way. You don't get warts by touching a frog's warts. That's not how it works. So if you ever see a toad and you're like, man, I want to pick it up, but I'm afraid about getting warts, you're not going to get warts. The worst that's going to happen to you is the frog might pee on you out of fear, which has happened, by the way. If you're wondering what that brown liquid is whenever you're holding a toad and then you let them hop out of your hand, you're like, oh, there's all this brown liquid on my hand. That's frog pee. The frog peed on you. But on top of that, depending on where the warts are, usually around the back of the neck, if there's a bunch of holes, that's where the hallucinogenic stuff kind of comes out of. So there you have it. If you ever need to lick a toad, there's where you get it. Don't lick toads, you morons. Anyone that thought about licking a toad seriously right there is a moron. Do not do it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put this garden toad right back where it was. Oh, I got to go off again? Alright, see you later, King Richard. Have a good one. Everything belongs to Disney, not wrong. If you're reborn, would you want to be born as a frog? Hell no! Don't get me wrong, I love frogs. Frogs are great. The problem is, if I was reborn as a frog, the only things I'd be able to do is think about eating, or breeding, or eating. That's all they do. They don't even really sleep so much as they just sit there and they rest. And then when they see movement, they jump on it. It's like a computer on standby. It's like a sentry drone. They just kind of sit there until they're activated, and then suddenly, frogs are great, but my god. So then there's this little guy. Oh my god, you're Dusty. You're not actually Dusty. If Dusty was here in the stream and he's heard me say that this is Dusty, he might be a little upset. But this little guy's actually really, really cute. I like him. He's got like a tiny little body, tiny little arms, that kind of little stuff. Red lips. I don't know why all these frogs seem to have red lips. Now, here's the creepy part about him. He has no pupils. Stare into the blackness of his soul. Just the fuck. Now, the great thing about this guy is that the texture of his, like, you know, stuff, it's soft and fluffy, and he's made out of corduroy. This guy's practically indestructible. Like, he's a tiny little plushie that I could give to my kids, and my kids could give to their kids. So, you know, so long as they're kept in good enough condition. It's a great little toy, and he's adorable, and he's cute. So, do frogs think? I don't think in the sense that we do. I don't think that frogs think in the sense that we do. I don't think that reptiles do either, but frogs on an even more instinctual level. It's not that frogs... you know what? No, it is this. Frogs have about 3 modes. They have, if it's smaller than me, I can eat it. So they jump at it and they eat it. If it's bigger than me, it'll eat me. And that's hide or run away mode. And then there's breed mode, where they do whatever it is that they're doing when they're breeding, and that's when things get a little bit more interesting. But I don't think that they have any, like, personal attachment to things. I don't think they think the same way that we do. They don't perceive the world the same way that we do. That much is for sure. They have very different eyes. They have, they have a different sense of smell. Their hearing is different as well, although it has the same kind of physics. Their eardrums are on the outside of their body, so, you know, that's a thing. Frogs don't think. Not like us. It's more like a reptile, where they can be comfortable around certain things. They will eventually learn that certain things won't hurt them. For instance, a tree won't hurt them. Certain kinds of, like, I guess, I don't know, warthog or whatever, will not try to eat them. That kind of stuff. Or, you know, like, whatever. They'll be comfortable in certain environments, and as a result from there, they won't be stressed out. But they don't have affection the same way that we do. They just have comfort level, if that makes any sense. Alright, third to last. That's a lie. Fifth to last. There's so many. That is a lot of frogs? Agreed. Which one was your first frog? That's this little guy all the way over here. Boom, this little guy. I think this guy belonged to my big brother first, so has been around in the family since at least 1986. Is surprisingly still in good condition. It is super old. I think Lynn earlier called this a Yeti frog. Oh my god. Here we go. Put this back where he belongs. That is a lot of frogs. I warned you guys that I have a massive frog collection. Unrelated frogs, do you still play Slay the Spire? I bought the game yesterday with the sale. I'm addicted. I've already gotten 3 wins today. Yeah, I love Slay the Spire. It's a great game. I need to play it some more, but right now I'm kind of sort of avoiding it because the lag villain on the first floor is an ass. 20 damage per swing is too much. So here's this guy. I like this guy. You know, he's a plush toy that's trying to be anatomically correct. If I plop him down in my hand, he automatically tries to be in the pose that a frog tries to be, which is pretty cool. He looks pretty cute. He's pretty happy. The main thing is that his eyes are a little bit lopsided, which makes him kind of look like a... Ladies. He's a lady killer, obviously. Or he's like the... Eh? You think? You're too slow. Yeah, he's a Winky Frog for sure. Oh, he's pretty sweet. Let's put him... Oh dear. I think we have to put him over here. Boom. It looks badass. That's good. Oh, we're dropping frames. What else is new? Oh, we're back. That's nice. Thank you, Internet. Just hold on a little bit longer, okay? The froggening's almost done. I know it's too many frogs for the Internet to handle, but we gotta try. Alright, so, yes, let's do this one next. So this one I named Scarlet. And I think that this was explicitly the first frog that I knew had to be a girl in the collection. I don't know why. Now, this is probably the nicest one out of the bunch in terms of, like, quality. Like, it's got ridges on the back, it's got the pose, it's got a lovely color, the eyes are super cool looking and clear, it's like a velvet, like, cloth of some kind, so it's super soft and, like, unbelievably huggable, and just, I love this frog. This frog is so cool, and I think it's part of the reason why I like the color red at all, aside from the fact I'm addicted to the color green. But Scarlet here is one of the more important frogs in the collection for me. She's great. I love her. Have you ever had to pet a frog? Yes! They're actually super soft and very soothing to the touch. I like holding frogs. They're very cute. I think the main deal with people is that they are worried that they are slimy. Frogs are not actually all that slimy. Frogs are soft and maybe a bit wet. But I would not say that they are slimy, unless if they, I don't know, recently sneezed. Which is technically speaking how they manage to keep their moisture in. They have like a, they sneeze through their skin, all over their skin. Like it's semi-porous, so they kind of produce this mucus out of, mucus to cover their skin so as to keep the water inside. Because it is so permeable, if they didn't do that, they'd dry out almost instantaneously. They need the mucus to survive outside of water, really. So, I mean, yeah, that's what you're touching, which is why you need to probably wash your hands afterwards. But does it feel slimy? No, not really. The layer is so thin that you end up largely not feeling or touching it at all. Hey, Crafted, welcome, welcome. Frogger as F? Yeah, pretty much. Oh, as in a companion animal. I mean, the thing with having a frog as a companion animal, like I mentioned before, they don't really feel affection. I'd be holding on to a frog just to have a frog, and that seems wrong to me somehow. Frogs are very much creatures that need the wild. I think that if they are stuck in a tank, they are not doing what they're meant to be doing. Like, they just get fed and they just kind of exist. And for a creature to just simply exist in a tank is not what I want to do, I feel. And with a frog in particular. I think that frogs are at their best and at their most beautiful when they're out in the wild. When they're struggling, I guess. This sounds terrible, but hear me out. When they're out running, you know, jumping, hopping away, finding prey, that kind of stuff. When they're out being frogs, when they're out being, to a certain degree, nature's upper tier janitor. Where if you think about insects as the janitors of nature's, systems, where they help to clean up the dead stuff, where they help to feed the living stuff, and where they, do all that kind of stuff, then frogs are the next level janitor up, where they help to feed the animals above them in the food chain, and where they help to eat the animals smaller than them that are too slow and stuff in those food chains. They help to reduce the number of insects that are problematic, like mosquitoes, and other massive bigger problems like that. They are lovely creatures, but they really do belong out in the wild, I find, and that's where they're at their best. So would I have one as a pet? The idea is appealing. It really is. I would love to look at one every day, but it's not... The idea is what I'm in love with, not with the actual reality of it, which would be me just it'd be like a virtual pet at that point. I just feed the thing and look at the thing, and the thing eventually becomes comfortable with me. But they wouldn't understand my affection towards it the same way that it would towards me. And on top of that, it wouldn't be doing what it would obviously be better off doing at that point, which is being a frog proper, if that makes sense. If I wanted to have a companion animal, I'd rather have something that would feel affection back towards me in some way, shape, or form. And I feel like mammals are particularly a lot better at doing that than reptiles and amphibians. In fact, I think that the way that they perceive, that reptiles and amphibians perceive things, I don't think that love enters into the picture in the same way. It's more necessity and comfort level that is the main thing for them. I think that birds make for pretty cute pets because they're inquisitive and intelligent, and they do form bonds with people that way, despite not being mammals. But at the same time, you know, they're far more social creatures than amphibians, which are very much solo predators. It'd be like asking a boa constrictor to, you know, feel love for something. That's not how boas work either, right? It's not how snakes work at all. Or shark. A frog is like a small shark in that sense. They will feed on what they need to feed. They'll run away from what they need to run away from, and then they will breed with whenever they can manage to breed in order to create more offspring. They are very much mechanical in that sense, and I don't think that makes for a great pet, personally. I had a nightmare where a frog jumped in my face and ate my face off. Oh dear. I didn't know what I expected when I turned into the stream. I'm glad I did, though. I'm glad you did too, Dusty. I'm glad that you turned in a little bit later than the other one, though. A frog is like a small shark. I swear. Let's move on. I'm holding the last one for. I'm holding the best one for last. So, next up, this might not make a lot of sense. Why am I holding a sack towards you? Well, this sack is actually a board game called Army of Frogs. It's made by the same guy that made another board game called Hive, which is a lot like chess. It's a game where you have insects move around, pin each other, and do all that kind of stuff. And the idea is to checkmate your opponent's queen bee by using a bunch of different insects that move around differently. It's like chess without a board. The same guy made another game called Army of Frogs, and it works a bit like a Chinese checkers, but without the board. And inside of this, by the way, if you're wondering what a group of frogs is called, it is in fact called an army of frogs. Hence the name of the game. But it's not called a spawn of frogs, hilariously. But inside of this, there are 4 different colored Bakelite versions of a frog. So you have like red ones that look like this. You have these cream and like cookie bit colored ones. You have these blue ones, and you have these green ones. And you can play it from 2 to 4 players in like this Chinese checkers kind of game. And I really like it. It's a simple game. It's a little bit of fun, and it does have some RNG involved in it, but that's what makes every game a little bit more interesting. But I really liked this, and I loved Hive when I first picked it up. You can ask Captain Red Ram. He was the first person that I played it with, and he kicked my ass. But I've gotten better now, Brian. I'll seek you on the battlefield. But with that said, Army of Frogs is a really cute little game, and I picked it up largely because it was the same guy that made Hive, but also because it was frogs and I couldn't resist. So, let's go ahead and put that on Grump Frog's lap. He's not happy about that, but he'll just have to deal. If you had the money, would you open a frog sanctuary? Yes. 100%. I would love to have a section of like a forest or pond or whatever. Just no one's allowed to touch this. You're not allowed to bring these kinds of chemicals, anything like that. This is just where the frogs go. Where the frog, like just that way this ecosystem can exist, where we will put an emphasis on trying to keep the frogs happy and healthy and all that stuff. I would love to do that. That'd be great. The problem is that frogs don't play nice with each other. Like I said before, they're like small sharks. But unlike sharks, there's far more different kinds of them. Frogs will eat smaller versions of frogs, including of the same species. If you have 2 Pac-Man frogs and one's drastically smaller than the other, the big one will just eat it. They're not smart. Okay? They don't care. Cannibalism's pretty normal with frogs. Even when they're tadpoles, and this is a little bit horrifying, but even when they're tadpoles, if a bunch of tadpoles have already come out, and the other ones are still in eggs, and they're going too slow. Tadpoles gotta eat. They're gonna eat the eggs of their slower brethren if there's nothing else around to eat. Sorry, you're too slow. So yeah, tadpoles may be vegetarians, but they will eat their egg brothers if they're still eggs. That is a large amount of frogs. My man, I told everybody. Hive is probably one of the best two-player games I've ever had, especially when you get additional pieces. But that's maybe a thing for another time. There is actually a Steam game for it, which isn't bad at all. Actually, it's pretty well put together, and it has the expansions if you want to pay for the DLC. But like, I'm not sure how I feel about that, honestly. Second last frog. We're almost there, and it's not the second last frog I own. I just couldn't find all the rest of the ones that I'm missing. I'm afraid. Hello, Caribou. Welcome to the Froggening. So this one's gonna take a little bit of construction. Now, I'm not sure how you guys. Fuck. I think I just dropped a piece. I'm not sure how you guys feel about Lego, but when I was in France, my mom found all these cute little things called nanoblocks, which are like tiny Lego things. Oh my god, it's actually still in one piece. Holy shit. And this is like a nanoblock version of a tree frog. And it's still in one piece. Holy hell. It survived going to France, and then coming to England, and then coming back to France, and then going back home. Holy moly. This thing is insanely sturdy. I think Polyroll's just trying to sneak into the club. I explained this before, but he gets an honorary introduction just because he was in the original 150, the only like cute frog that there was in the original 150 Pokemon, and so he's in because he's a tadpole Pokemon. You can look it up; it's in the Pokedex. But yeah, there's my little nano frog, and he's a tree frog. Now the thing about tree frogs is that there are actually a couple of them that that exist in North America. And it's funny because there were a couple that existed around my dad's place south of here, about 2 to 3 hours worth of road, so it's not super far. And during the spring, all you can hear are these frogs just croaking on the trees and near the ponds and all that stuff, and it's absolutely lovely to listen to. The best part, though, is that they actually sound remarkably a lot like the banjo frogs that I talked about earlier, that when they croak, they sound like a banjo being plucked. So I just get to lie there and sit and listen to these frogs going boing, 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 boing. It's so funny. I can't even begin to describe how funny it is. It's the best. So, Oswald, thank you very much for the 50 bits. Sincerely appreciated. Oh God, Crafton, shut up. Is Poliwhirl the least frog you own? Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. I definitely have frog calendars, but I have no idea where they are anymore. They're somewhere for sure. I went camping one time and tree frogs were everywhere. Yeah, and the tree frogs that I'm talking about were like a gray color. They meshed in with like the I think there's a birch tree that they like to hang out on. So, yeah, the tree frogs that I met were gray, not like this. This little guy here is like a cream kind of green color and has like a white belly. I forget exactly what kind of frog they are, but they do exist. And I think that brings us to our last frog. Now this one is the one I am the most embarrassed and at the same time the most deeply in love with. And I mean, I know everybody had that one toy when they were a kid that they couldn't do without. Like, it was the toy that when they packed for a trip, if it wasn't with them, the kid would, like, cry unbelievably. Like, just non-stop. Right? Well, I don't know why this one ended up being that toy for me, but it was. I memorized how many beads I wanted to have in its hands, its feet, and its legs, so that way I could tell if there were too many, to the point where I was stretching the fabric and tearing the seams. I went on adventures with this little guy. I invented a whole backstory. He was my little pretend friend. And he's also the reason why I don't have a Kermit the Frog in this collection. You might have noticed there is no Kermit the Frog. This is Hermit the Frog. So as a kid, I didn't know that Kermit's name was Kermit. I thought it was Hermit. So when I got this frog, I called him Hermit the Frog. And I was deeply enamored with the fact that Sonic the Hedgehog was super fast. And because of this guy's super long legs, I thought he would go super fast too. Now, you might notice that there's some weird things about him. First off, that he's made of, like, mesh. And second, that he's filled with, like, plastic beads. And he's got this little string here. He's supposed to be a loofah. You're supposed to, like, put a bunch of soap on him and be like, oh, I'm having a bath. Nah. Nah. This was going to be my partner in crime. Okay? This was the best friend I could possibly have asked for out of an inanimate object. Okay? This thing has been through hell. There are scars from where it tore. Here. Not there yet, but it looks like that might be soon. Here, on its feet, there, on its leg, all along the inseam here. On its... Is there any on his butt? No, hilariously, nothing on his butt. No cracks on its butt. It's better than me. I've got mine's cracked. And like, it's dirty as hell. This thing's been through everything. I love this little guy. His eyes have become unglued. I've had to super glue them back on. It's how I learned how to super glue. And like, this little guy would go with me everywhere. This was probably the... I got him when I was 8 years old, but this is probably my childhood defining, like, toy, if that makes any sense. Like, this was my Woody. If we're taking on a toy... Don't take that out of context. If we're taking this from a Toy Story context, this... Okay, is my Woody the Cowboy. And as far as a Buzz Lightyear went, there wasn't one. If I could have written my name down on his foot, I would have, but I wasn't smart enough, and no one else would ever dare to bring this to school anyway. I brought this to school as a good luck charm for a very long time, which explains why I had no friends in middle school. Like, I love this little guy. He's the best. And he is probably, as far as I'm concerned... the peak of my collection. He is the best that there is as far as a collection goes. Partner against grime. Oh my god, Devmon. A friend of mine had a story about how green tree frogs lived under her toilet. Oh my god. They're so cute though. I've been collecting these since I was a baby. Yeah. Absolutely. And that is actually the whole box. There's nothing left. So, this is it. This is everything as far as a frog collection goes. Everything from the most early, as in like baby, as in before I was born, all the way up to some of the newest ones involving my Froggy G on canvas here, are part of this collection. I still have this mug here too. You're right. Hold on a second. We're not done yet. I'm gonna hop to it. 1 minute. You're right. There's one more. Fixed. Okay. Oh. Whew. That's a good point. I'll go ahead and do that immediately. So, Captain reminded me of this, which I only forgot about because the back of it's a little bit broken. But like I said before, the red-eyed tree frog is a very popular frog because of how it looks, because of how startlingly red the eyes are, and how just green everything else is, the orange hands. They're very cool frogs. It's also a great picture. It's just a shame that the back of the frame's a little broken. I need to get it reframed, and I've been meaning to do it for a very long time, but it took so long that I forgot about it. So thank you, Captain. I appreciate that. But yeah, there's that one. And, oh, I'm not sure where I can put this one now. We might be out of almost, we might be almost out of room here. Shit. It can take my spot. You know what? That's fine. Take my spot. See if I care. And I guess that's almost it, because there's only one more thing to get in the picture, despite the fact that it smells musty as hell. Ugh. Oh, Mr. Stinky. The stinkiest of things. It smells like my dad's dog. Okay. Oh, we're gonna put this away in a minute. We're not, oh jeez, it does smell bad. We're gonna put this in the wash. Okay, so, it probably smells that musty because the last person who used it was my little brother and he probably never washed it. There's also this blanket. Just a reminder for those of you that missed the beginning of the stream, I also have this massive blanket that's got a huge red-eyed tree frog on it. So, that's a thing. But yeah, if you include everything here, that's it. That's the whole frog collection. It's the whole kit and caboodle. So, yeah, that's the Froggening. I hope you guys enjoyed it, because this is actually a lot of fun to put together, and it was kind of cool to go through memory lane and to kind of figure things out, and you know, just like, I liked this. This is cool. Does anyone have, like, I guess, any more questions? If that's it. It's a weird question to have to ask, I guess. Does anyone have any more questions about the unreasonably large frog collection that this weirdo on Twitch has for reasons unknown? Oh my lord. Actually, hold on. I'm gonna move some of the parts of this collection so that way I can actually sit down again, because this is nonsense. I guess now would be a time to have a bit of an Ask Me Anything sort of moment. So, about the frogs, or about how or anything, really. 2 hours of frog. I told you that this would be the Froggening, for sure. Mod Red Ram? Okay, hold on. /mod. Ding, have a sword. Do you like frogs? Yes. Someone asked, why SlowWolf and not Slow Frog? So that's a bit of a longer story, but at the time I was in university, and I mean, I had to leave all this behind. But I was playing World of Warcraft, and I was playing as a hunter, and I was writing a hunter blog. And the idea of a fat wolf at a typewriter made me laugh, and I also needed a mascot that I could use. Like, I wanted to have a mascot that I could use over the course of the blog to kind of like help promote the blog and have like a, you know, a friendly furry face that I could draw every once in a while or whatever stupid. So I had my pet wolf Link, because I couldn't have a pet frog as a hunter in Warcraft at the time. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure I would have. Otherwise, it might have been Slow Frog. Who knows? Did you read the Frog and Toad books? Hilariously, no. I never read those as a kid. Although The Wind in the Willows, where Frog and Toad, I think, as two characters do pop up, I might have read once as a child, a very long time ago, but I don't remember it at all. I need an increase and go mad with my moderate amount of power. Oh, damn it, not again. What's your favorite animal? It's pretty much over now. Did they ever allow hunters to get murlocs? As far as I understand, no. Which makes me sad. But, anytime I got the chance to be a murloc, you best bet that I took my time with it. I love murlocs. They're pretty great. Amphibians are animals in Animosity. I'm sorry. But if I had to pick a non-frog animal, that becomes a bit tougher. I mean, you've got like the very obvious wolf answer. I do like the idea of wolves, but I think I have to go with like a hawk, honestly. Maybe it's my nose. You know, for the sides, got that hawkish kind of, you know, angle to it. But more importantly, I like how hawks look. I like birds and how they behave. I think that they're funny. Maybe budgies and parrots then instead. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. Owls! I love owls. Owls are great too. I just like animals in general for the most part. I think animals are great. It's one of the reasons why I love the, if anyone hasn't watched it, the Planet Earth series, narrated by David Attenborough. That's fantastic. Both seasons 1 and 2 are super good. I think they're both available on Netflix, or at least season 1 is. I'm pretty sure season 2 is. Go watch them. They're amazing. Especially the second, more recent season, because they have a bit on urban animals. And Toronto, where I live, ends up featuring on it because we are the trash panda capital of the planet. We have the smartest raccoons because we keep having to come up with smarter and smarter ways to hide our garbage from the trash pandas. And they keep freaking figuring it out. So, any love for toads or just frogs? Love toads and frogs. They're practically the same as I mentioned before, but I think that they're both awesome. I think like frogs and toads in general are both just very cool animals. Obviously, frogs are a little bit more up my alley just because they are brighter colors. They're a little bit, you know, nicer looking, I guess. They're more aesthetically pleasing. But I still think that toads are like still rad as heck, and I think they're very funny animals. Like as far as how they look and all that stuff, toads are they're hilarious. They really, really are. Seals are pretty cute, Dusty. I agree. If you could design a new frog character in Awesomenauts, what would it be like? I think that we've had 2 very fit frogs. It would be kind of nice to have a bouncy one, like just a big boy. Like I want to. We've had Greninjas. I want a Polytoad. We've had all these sleek dynamic frogs. I want one that looks like how this guy looks, where his body is as big as his feet. And he turns like that would be pretty sweet. I want him to be a bouncy boy. Have you played Tadpole Treble? I have not, but I have played Frogger. I even bought Frogger for the Frogger 2 for the PlayStation or something like that. It was like a 3D Frogger. It was fun, actually, and it included all the arcade, like old school Frogger levels as well that I eventually beat as well. I really enjoyed that game, but I only picked it up because it had a frog on the front. I'm not sure exactly where the CD-ROM went for that, but it exists somewhere. I remember there being like space aliens and like a boss fight involving having to navigate a spaceship by hopping on different buttons or something dumb. I don't remember, but yeah, there was a Frogger too for sure. Like the Toad guys from Cuphead, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I'd be pretty down with that. Alright, so we've been at this for 2 hours, give or take. And don't get me wrong, it's been a frogging good time. Oh, and in case someone else missed it, yes, there is a second mug. And I'm pretty sure there's a third mug somewhere, but I haven't found it yet. Not to mention my amphibian encyclopedia somewhere as well. Like, there's little bits and pieces that have kind of gone astray over the course of the last decade or so. But, anyway, I wanted to say thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope that this is what you guys were kind of like waiting for, and I hope that this is worth the 20 sub expectation. This is... You made my mom laugh with that pun? Oh, that's amazing. But yeah, I hope that this... Look, I'm not saying I'm the most sane person on the planet at all, but this is a part of me that not everybody sees a lot of the time, because I have had to keep it in a box for the last little while as I've had to move around. I really don't think that my housemates from last year appreciated just how much I liked frogs. You guys now understand a little bit of how much I like my frogs. Even you, Mr. Grumpy Gills, even you. So, oh no. I just wanted to say thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you folks enjoyed yourselves. I am going to see if I can't try to stream again a little bit later. But as it stands right now, you might be recognizing, hey, that's your desk. And you're right, that is. I've got a whole bunch of frogs on it. And I still don't actually have the space to put them. So I have to rejig my entire setup again so that way I can actually stream video games once more. But as it stands right now, I can't because there's a bunch of frogs on my desk. Which, I mean, there are worse problems to have, but it does mean I have to either put them back in a box or figure something out. Also, we've been without frog croaking noises for like a little while now, I'm guessing. So, before we go, let's go ahead and see if there's anybody else that could probably use a little bit of a boost in terms of a raid or something. In the meantime, if anyone else has any more questions, you know, do let me know. Oh, I know exactly who we're going to. Okay, guys. We're doing this. We're going to go ahead and raid Seraph. Now, I know that Seraph is a sweet dude, but more importantly, he's doing a Zelda 1 randomizer race, and I really don't want to miss this. And I don't think you guys ought to miss this either. Zelda 1 randomizers are insane. They're actually nuts. And I cannot wait for you guys to see this. So, if you guys will just hold on a minute while I figure out how I'm going to get this all to work, let's go ahead and raid some Seraph. Ding, ding, boop. So, he's doing a Zelda 1 randomizer race. It is super cool. It's like the Binding of Isaac on crack cocaine. Do go watch that. It's going to be really cool. Also, make sure to say hi. You can ribbit, you can croak, you can howl. I don't care. But make sure you let him know that you're rating his stream. This has been the Froggening. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and I'll see you folks next time. You're the hopping in best.